Taiwanese opposition party KMT chairwoman Cheng Li-wun will be meeting with Xi Jinping in April ahead of Trump. Taiwan and the people living in Taiwan are showing signs that we are becoming more open to China again. I'm once again hearing, we are Chinese people. 我们是中国人. We are Taiwanese, but we're also Chinese. People often understand Taiwan through the lens of Western media or from hearing from Taiwanese diaspora, who are often not aware of the situation of Taiwan on the ground because they're busy being immigrants. Even becoming a naturalized citizen, it's still not easy. People in the West, even people who support China, they don't really understand China. They say China should make a move on Taiwan right now, while America is boggled down in the Middle East. But they don't understand China, and often they are viewing China still through a Western lens, still through zero-sum thinking. A friend from high school messaged me a while ago, and he said, hey, how come you don't want Taiwan to fight? Don't you know China is very bad? Is it because you're afraid? Is it because you don't want Taiwan to go into a war? Well, firstly, I believe it is not in China's interest to make a move on Taiwan. The pros do not outweigh the cons. Furthermore, serious analysts, including American think tanks and war games, show that American conflict with China in the Pacific Ocean is not a good idea. It's not a good idea for Americans, it's not a good idea for Taiwanese, and it's definitely not a good idea for the long term. Taiwan has spent a lot of money buying military equipment, but a lot of it is undelivered, or it's delivered and it's faulty, it's broken, it's moldy. You can see this post here by Mr. Lai giving you the details. Most importantly, Taiwan is a small island with a giant population relative to its size. Taiwan's high mountain regions means that our cities are dense and concentrated with lots of people. In the event of a kinetic conflict in Taiwan with the mainland China, Taiwan would suffer catastrophic losses, civilian losses. Okay, I don't want my cousins and grandparents to get hurt. I don't want the playgrounds and schools and hospitals to get caught up in the fire, because that's what would happen. Taiwan is very dense. Taiwan has been stagnating for a long time. I am confident when I say many Taiwanese people want better infrastructure. The only time Taiwan makes any effort to improve the infrastructure and the sidewalks is when a foreigner gets hit by a car in Taiwan. Taiwan has been called a pedestrian death trap, a pedestrian hell. Under KMT Kuomintang, Taiwan's mandatory military service for men went down to as low as 4 months. During the time of peace and communication and trade between Taiwan and China, and honoring the 1992 One China consensus. Howard Lutnick recently told Taiwan, hey, you guys need to keep America happy. We're protecting you guys. So you got to transfer your tech from Taiwan Semiconductor, TSMC, to Arizona. All Taiwanese who are watching know that Taiwanese political parties, they all have to kowtow to America. America has something called the AIT, American Institute of Technology in Taiwan, and they have huge influence. At this point, the semiconductor issue is not as big as people blow it up to be. China has its own semiconductor industry. Taiwanese semiconductor, unique small chips, 2 nanometers, 3 nanometers. These chips don't have that much ubiquitous use, and it's not critical to China. If anything, these chips are more important to America. Currently in Taiwan, it is considered risky to speak against the current ruling party, the DPP. Google, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, people don't see these things as digital miracles anymore. Some people are starting to say, hey, free speech without guardrails and rules leads to chaos or worse. A popular line in Taiwan that's been appearing the last year is that, hey, look, in Taiwan, we're always saying we can 骂政府, we can insult and really denigrate the government. But what has this given us? Taiwanese people also share stories among themselves of people going to mainland China. They saw this woman yelling at a government official, and the official was just meek and listened. And people were surprised. Hey, is she going to go to jail? No, people are allowed to criticize the Chinese government in China. People are also starting to understand why China made their own internet apps, why China wanted internet sovereignty. Because we live in a earth with lots of information war. Every government is putting out their bias, their spin, their narrative. But we believed all the silly lies from one government. We believe that Winnie the Pooh is banned in China. YouTube is banned. Using a VPN to connect to YouTube is illegal, but it's not. Speaking of silly lies, Taiwan has its own brand of unique anti-China lies. For example, Taiwanese media kept saying, Chinese people on the mainland, they can't even afford eggs. And yeah, China might have high-speed rail, but the seats are terrible. You can't even lean back. It's basically a stool, and you gotta sit there in the high-speed shaky train. All of this turned out to be lies. Pro-DPP influencers, ex-pro-DPP influencers like Guan Zhang, Holger Chen, Zhong Minxuan, that pro-DPP woman with the bowl cut, the older woman. These people who used to support DPP, they believed what DPP told them about China. China is terrible, don't go, never go. But then they go because they see clips on the internet, they get curious, they go, and they don't even defend China. They just say, I went and it's not what the media told me, I had a good time. And that is enough for them all to get attacked viciously when they come back to Taiwan. Online by commentators, by bluebirds, by the net army, by the mainstream media. It's just that in Taiwan, speaking positively about China is considered a faux pas. Of course, this only had the Streisand effect. Barbra Streisand. The more you try to shut someone up about something, the more people get interested. You know, it's very easy to misunderstand China. Those of you who remember, I used to spend all of my time making angry rant videos. I thought I was some sort of funny Dennis Miller type character. But ultimately, now that I'm almost 40, I don't blame anyone for being a victim to misinformation or propaganda that is baseless. In 2026, information is chaotic and overwhelming, and I might be fooled too. But I've done a lot of research, critical thinking, looking from all sides, and as a Taiwanese, I am pro-China. I hope we peacefully reunify. You know, look, people don't understand that the major real estate developer in China, Evergrande, it was allowed to fall. They didn't bail them out. Xi Jinping said, look, houses are for living, not speculation. We're not going to let these real estate developers keep manipulating the real estate economy. China doesn't work for the landlord class. China doesn't work for the billionaire class. That's why Jack Ma got silenced. He wasn't harmed, but he was told to know your role and be quiet. You want to make money? Go make money. Stay out of politics. Stay out of how we run society. We want society to keep improving for the everyday working class person. Speaking of billionaires, look at how much Mark Zuckerberg kissed up to Xi Jinping when he wanted Facebook and China to get really connected. He did all these performative acts in China, trying to show how pro-China he is. But ultimately, he was told, look, Facebook has to play by the rules that we set, or you got to leave. And they decided to leave. Official polls in Taiwan, they show people support the status quo. Most people support the status quo. But under the DPP, there hasn't been a status quo. They've abandoned the One China policy, One China consensus from 1992. And they've changed the education to say we are not Chinese. And they have constantly antagonized China, often at the behest of America. But with KMT Chairwoman Cheng Li-wun insisting on developing a better relationship with China, we could see a return to the 1992 One China consensus. Aside from official polls, street polls, YouTubers going to night markets and talking to people, these polls show that there is a shift in Taiwan. People are warming up to China. People are willing to call themselves Chinese. Yes, my ancestors are from China, and I'm okay to say that in Taiwan. It's not shameful. Despite what I said earlier that DPP provokes China often, China still gives Taiwan favorable tax status through something called ECFA, ECFA. You know, the current ruling government, DPP, Democratic Progressive Party of Taiwan, they do a ton of business in China, and they're affiliated with lots of business, and they make a lot of money from China. Despite this, they'll still insist everything nice China does to Taiwan is 糖衣毒药. It's poison covered in sugar. So the DPP, they profit so much from China, but they keep saying to everyone else, don't go to China. And remember, China bad. Very bad. 很坏,很坏,很坏. But, despite all the effort that DPP has put into discouraging people from going to China, visiting China, talking about China in a positive light, some people in Taiwan are excited about rapprochement with China. There's this older lady I know, and she says, yeah, I want China to build that bridge they're talking about between Taiwan and the mainland. I want to ride my electric Chinese Vespa over. I want to visit. There's so many different cultures and foods to see in China. All of China's ethnic groups and food. Every region has unique food. Despite the DPP abandoning the 1992 One China consensus, the education system in China still says, 台湾人是我们的同胞. Taiwanese people are our compatriots. We come from the same birth sac. 包. China has shown itself to be patient. Peaceful reunification is preferred. When she says they reserve the right to use military force, they're talking to America. All your bases surrounding China, in Guam, in Japan, in South Korea, these American-controlled or heavily influenced militaries. We don't want to fight you. Don't start crap with us. We don't want to start crap with you. Peaceful reunification is best. I believe, or rather I bet, China prefers peaceful reunification. China knows that there would be a heavy, heavy price to pay to taking Taiwan forcefully. And the people of Taiwan wouldn't like it either, and this would hurt China's economic status. And of course, China is a very professional merchant civilization. I believe most Americans do not want more foreign adventures and meaningless wars. It is the American elites who want to contain China and possibly create conflict with China. Moving on, I need to give props to Chairwoman Cheng Li-wun of the Kuomintang KMT in Taiwan. She has faced a lot of pressure, both within her party and from the outside, obviously. The KMT is a 百年老党, a very old, powerful political party. But it is a shadow of its former self. And the KMT is very fractured. You have pro-China people, pro-America camp, pro-reunification camp. The problem with KMT is a lot of people who hold the power in that party, they're old dinosaurs and snakes with many heads. And they have the hubris to think they're still players in 2026 and they can get benefit from China and America and we can keep the status quo forever. They call Chen Li-wun 铁战女, 女战神, a battle goddess, a steel fighter for the truth, steel goddess. And from what I have seen from her, she is a dynamic force for truth. She sticks to history, she sticks to facts, and she's looking out for the development of Taiwan. But this doesn't mean the road forward is smooth and everything's hunky-dory. And it's hard to trust the KMT sometimes given their history. Mine Zhou would also pay a lot of positive lip service to mainland China, but nothing happens. Li Denghui of the KMT is known to be he was saying everything that China wanted to hear and what pro-Chinese people in Taiwan wanted to hear, but ultimately he was working for the Western Empire. I encourage everyone here, if you're still here, to also follow Angelica Ung. She used to be pro-DPP, pro-Taiwan independence, but then she started researching and she started seeing facts that are lesser seen. And she eventually made the switch to the pro-China, pro-peace between Taiwan and China camp. And she was heavily abused for this. It's really ridiculous. Someone who lives in Taiwan, someone who knows Taiwan very well, people will abuse her and denigrate her intellect with disgusting insults just because she dares to go against the mainstream narrative on Taiwan. As I get to the end here of my longest, most detailed video yet, there is no need to fear China in the way that Western media tells you. China is a rising superpower, but will China behave as a world police like America? I would suggest no, and China's history has shown that they are not interested in doing this. And I think China knows that despite being the world police, America faces a lot of problems, and an empire stretched so wide becomes difficult. And America will remain a superpower for a long time. We are just going into a multipolar world. And that word by itself will tell you that there's going to be multiple poles. One pole is not going to dominate the other. So, peaceful reunification between Taiwan and China means that we avoid the Thucydides trap of the current superpower versus the rising superpower. And it means your tax dollars don't need to go fund more meaningless wars in Asia, and potentially your sons and daughters don't need to go risk their lives in a war far away from homeland. Hassan Abi, a popular Western streamer, recently went to China and gave a push to this China maxing, I'm in a very Chinese time in my life trend that's going on right now. Very surprised. I mean, growing up in Canada, China, Chinese, very uncool, right? But things are changing, unbelievable. The media paints this picture that China is an evil overlord and Taiwan is this innocent fairy. But really, the KMT were known as the Chinese fascists, and their takeover of Taiwan was brutal. Not to mention all the gold and resources they took from mainland. Anyways, we are told that advocating for Taiwanese independence is moral and righteous. Supporting a war of Taiwanese independence is for the highest good of humanity. But are we ironclad about this? Are we absolutely sure? Are we sure we have the right information? Some people criticize Hassan. They say, you only support imperialism when China does it. Well, for this issue between China and Taiwan, it's not imperialism. Most major countries already recognize the one China policy. China's air defense zone stretches into mainland China. And Taiwan's constitution still claims mainland China. So this is an old civil war that needs to be resolved, and hopefully we can resolve it with a win-win situation. There's no reason the Chinese people in Taiwan and on the mainland can't find a win-win situation for the Republic of China and the People's Republic of China. I predict that Taiwan and China will peacefully reunify by 2040. I predict China will continue to be patient with Taiwan and the forces that want to use Taiwan as a pawn to agitate China. China has the circumstances to be patient. Peaceful reunification will not only prevent war and the loss of precious lives, it will start our global society onto a new way of thinking and living. If we can avoid this potential war that they have been drumming up and talking about for a long, long time. They keep saying China is going to make a move in 2027. I mean, think about it. If the plan has become public, would China really make a move? It doesn't make sense. Is that even the plan? Did Xi Jinping or a source close to Beijing reveal to you that China is going to make a move 2027, November 9th? Like, it just doesn't make sense. Thank you if you made it this far to the video. This Taiwan issue is deeply personal to me because I'm from Taiwan. I spend considerable time in Taiwan every year. My cousins, grandparents, aunts, uncles, the doctors and nurses who saved me from cancer, I want them to have a peaceful, prosperous future, not one where they're constantly worried about war. I don't make any money from what I do online with China. This is a way for me to ease the pressure in my chest because I see a lot of lies. I see a lot of misinformation.